What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. This morning I went to the junkyard really quickly to check out an Integra that just came in. It's an RS Integra, it doesn't come with ABS, and I went to go see if the 4040 prop valve was still there. It's been less than 24 hours that the car showed up and the prop valve is already gone. I also went to go check out the moldings on the car for the homie KELLYBUILT to see the condition of it. I took some pictures of it, I sent it to him, and then I was on my way out. Literally an in and out from the junkyard, probably less than 15 minutes. So today we're going to be working on the EF Sedan a little bit more. If you guys saw the previous video, we freshened up the 5-lug front spindles and they are ready to rock and roll. Now we still need a few more things. Like I mentioned, prop valve is one of it and brake lines to show up. I'll touch up on more information with the 5-lug conversion when we get to it. But today I want to work on the fueling system. Fueling system for the front wheel drive setup as of right now, and then when we go all-wheel drive with the fuel cell and all that good jazz, we'll redo it then. But for now, I just want to turn it on with the stock fuel tank, utilizing the stock Hardline. So this box right here, man, big shout out to the homie Brian from BRFITTINGS. He came by to drop this off while he was in town the other day, and a lot of this stuff pertains to the all-wheel drive fuel system, but we're only going to be using a few of this in today's video to adapt to the stock Hardline for now, just to get the car to fire over. And then when we do the fuel cell setup, we'll utilize everything in this box. So what he dropped off to me was, I need a fuel pressure regulator. Normally I run the Fuel-It, which is his brand, Fuel-It mini regulator, and I mount it on the fuel rail. I told him that my power level is going to be north of 600 horsepower, and he recommended to get the race version, which is a much bigger one. This time around, we're going to be running the Walbro 525. This is going to be modified to be an in-tank fuel pump. Normally I run the external inline, but I kind of want this car to be a little quieter instead of a loud whiny pump on the outside. So we're going to modify the fuel cell like we did the H2B CRX to have a fuel pump inside the tank, and the 525 is going to be plenty for that. This one right here is a Fuel-It fuel filter. This is going to be a post filter inline. The fuel pump in the tank is going to have its own sock, and then this is going to be the second filter before the fuel rail. We have the brackets for that. All of the fittings are in the box here. We have this oil feed adapter for the back of the block for when we run the line for the turbo. And then this one right here is a temporary line that we're going to be running on the regulator to the stock Hardline for the return. And then once we do the fuel cell, it's going to be externally -6 from the regulator all the way back to the fuel cell. So let me go ahead and puzzle this all together and figure out how we're going to run everything. So I have an idea where I'm going to be running my fuel pressure regulator, but let me explain real quick. So normally I run the Fuel-It mini regulator, which is a lot smaller than this, and I bolt it up to the fuel rail. So let me pop this off real quick. I normally have this mounted on the fuel rail with an orb fitting, which is typically on the mini reg, it's like a 6-to-6 orb O-ring. So for this fuel rail to this regulator, I would need a 6 orb O-ring to 10 orb O-ring. So I don't have that fitting, and after now just kind of like mocking it up, it's actually not going to really work for me. So if I stand it straight up, that's going to go through the hood. You can see it is taller than the fender. So under launch, if there's any engine movement, we're gonna punch a hole through the hood. So if I tilt it back, it may work, but then the issue here is we're gonna run into the radiator cap, and also the return right here at the bottom is gonna be interfering with my cable and my throttle body. Now I did mention before that I don't want to drill my towers. I really don't. But in the case of wanting to make powers, you got to sacrifice. So I think I'm going to mount it right here somewhere. Let me mock up the bottom one here to make sure the return line is not going to hit the tub itself. So for the bottom here, we're going to be needing the fitting, which is a 10-to-6, which should be included. 10-to-6. This right here is a 10-to-6. Make sure your O-ring is on here. Make sure you lubricate the O-ring. I have the oil for it, but right now we're just mocking everything up. So this right here is the -6 we're going to be using for the return line for right now. This is a push lock style, so it has a hose end on there, and this is going to go to the factory hardline. This goes on the bottom right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put some tape on here first. Put the regulator. Okay, we don't want it too low, but I also don't want it too high. I'm not worried about the fitting on this side because it's going to be blocked off. But I think right here we have clearance to the -6 return. Not too high, not too low. I can still put a fuel gauge in here if I wanted to, or I can just leave it on the fuel rail. Go ahead and take my marker. So we have our 2 marks right here, and I'm going to take my leveler and make sure that this is nice and straight. Let me see. Somewhere there. Almost leveled. Just a little bit down, maybe. I think we're Gucci. Me center punching this right now, it's gonna hurt my feelings a little bit because I'm hesitating. Do I want to put it on the fuel rail? Can I mount it somewhere else? Do I just send it right here? I think we're just gonna send it. No turning back. So I went through my Astro 1442 riv nut kit right here. You can get this off of Amazon, and I do have an M5 right here. Typically I use the M6 and M8, which is the 10 and the 12 of a Honda, and I do have a little bag of M5s. So the riv nut, this little thing right here, is again typically the 8mm of the family, and I do have bolts and screws for it. So right here you can see I have a little galvanized Phillips screw, which I have 2 right here, and a whole bunch of other ones as well too. I also have black one, which is from the glove box to the EF or EGs. They share the same bolt. I have black ones there. I got a pair of those, and then I also have silver ones to match the bracket. So I'm trying to figure out if 8 is going to be strong enough to hold the fuel pressure regulator up. I think it will, because there's going to be 2 of them. Or should I just do the M6s and use 10 mils? I think it's already hurting me that I'm drilling the tower, so maybe let's just start small with the 8, and if it works out, we'll use it. If it doesn't, we'll drill it off from the back, take it out, large the hole up for the M6s, and use 10 mils. So let's get to drilling. This is a weird angle because I do have it really low, and it's actually hitting the mount tower. So I'm gonna get this -6 back on the bottom here. Plenty of space to put an AN wrench down there, and plenty of space for this to swivel. So I switched out the galvanized screws for the silver ones because they were a little too short, and I did strip this side because it didn't catch. So I had to punch out that riv nut, put a new one on, put these longer ones on, and they do clear the passageway of the upper control arm, so I'm not worried about it hitting anything, and it's pretty firm in place. I think once all the lines are attached to the regulator, it's going to make it a little more firmer, but for right now this will do perfectly fine. So this side right here, we're going to be capping it off. So we're going to need this cap here, and also this one, which is a 10 to 8. This is going to be for the return from the rail to the regulator, and then it's going to go to 6 back. I have the block off plugged up right there, and this one right here, I need to tighten it up. But before I do that, I need to get this to length. This is going to be going to the return line. The factory hard line is right here, and this is going to go when I do the AM lines. But for right now, we're just running the hoses on here. Technically, I don't need to cut it because, you know, I can always use this for later, and I could just, you know, kind of stick it on there, put a worm clamp or a pressure clamp, and it'll be okay. But I think honestly it bothers me because it looks like that. I know it's temporary, Dana. I know it's temporary. We don't need to cut this, really don't. But what's the best way to run this? Okay, we're not going to cut it, so I'm just going to go ahead and tighten this up. Down low, lefty loosey, righty tighty. Which way is it? There we go. Alrighty. Okay, so I won't be needing some of these stuff. I might use the 6s, so I'm gonna keep the 6s out. These guys, PTFE, 10s, VTEC conversion, hose for push lock. What is this? This is PTFE. I'm not going to be using this for now. Don't need the 10s. Who else is our 6s here? These are all 6 PTFEs. PTFE. Okay, it looks like I can't use any of these guys, so I'll toss all of these back in the box. This is a 6 regular, so might need that, might need this. We'll be needing this. I'll explain in just a second. So I want to build the dash 8 from here to the regulator, and I don't have any dash 8 in any of my boxes, but I did order the fuel line kit from Amazon, which was recommended by the homie We F Shit Up, and the price, killer. The amount of fittings it comes with it makes it worth the price, and We F Shit Up Brandon has been pushing it for like 600 plus horsepower and years on end without having any issues. So let me find that Amazon package and show you guys what it is. I don't know which one of my packages on the pile over there is my dash 8 feed line, but we're just gonna unbox until we find it. Heat wrap. Cut away from yourself, not toward yourself. All right, this is the one right here. I have bad pronunciations, but this brand is called Sintly, and you can get this off of Amazon. They come in however long you need these lines to be, 8, 10 feet, 16 feet, 20 feet. I opt for 16 because 16 is the length front to back of a CRX, which is going to be plenty for the sedan. So 16 feet of PTFE -6 line. This one here comes with 10 fittings, I believe 180s, 45, 90s, and straights. And I don't know if the math was right, but this one right here is dash 8, also 16 feet PTFE, same thing, 10 fittings. The dash 8 is going to be my feed in. Dash 6 is going to be my feed out. I'm going to unbox the 8 and show you guys what's all that's inside. Oh, wow. Interesting. Pair of gloves, not knowing what size your hands are. 2 180s, 2 straights, 3 straight, 4 straight, 2 45s, and 2 90s. What's also cool is they included a freaking wrench. And then this right here is 16 feet of dash 8. It looks a little slimmer because it's PTFE with the Teflon liner on the inside, opposed to rubber hose, which then makes it look thicker. So I'll make sure I'll list all the stuff that we're using in today's video in the description below, at least the top of the description, because they've always been in the description below. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure out the length that I need for the fuel rail to the fuel pressure regulator. So I threw my intercooler on so I can throw the charge pipe on, since I can't put the turbo and manifold in place because we have the header. So just gonna put this kind of where it's supposed to be sitting to see what kind of fitting I need off the regulator to get to the fuel rail here. Originally I was gonna run a 45, so let me screw that in there real quick. 45 is probably gonna hit the coupler. You can see it's kind of in line right here, and I don't know how high or low this sits to know if I can clear it with the 45, but I'm pretty sure it sits about right there, and it looks like it's not going to work. So I'm gonna switch it over to a 90. Okay, so a 90 for sure will clear the coupler, but again, it's gonna have to bend almost 90 degrees here in order to get to the fuel rail. Can't go down with this one either because way tight of a bend for it to come back up. So definitely a straight won't work either. Guys, do not, okay, I said do not donut, do not cut your lines with the grinder, especially PTFE. Don't be like me. And there you have it. I apologize, guys. I was on the phone for like 2 hours with the homie Slimeball, and we were just kind of discussing a lot of things. Might be going to LA soon. I don't know. So anyways, guys, we need to do the feed line from the factory Hardline right here. So earlier I said, oh, I'm gonna be needing this fitting soon. So if you look, this is a banjo style, right? This is the one that I use for the stock fuel filter system, right? That sits about right here normally, and I ran this in an EK before, then we switched over to E85, which then we took out the stock filter and ran an inline Russell. So this one right here I was going to use with my stock fuel filter setup, and just realizing that I did cut all the bracket off, so it's just going to be hanging, which wouldn't really matter too much because we're just starting the car up. But I went through my box, and it turns out that I have a 5/16 to tube fitting adapter for a -6, which I believe it's this one. No, this is PTFE straight. What is this? This is PTFE straight as well. Oh man, where'd it go? This right here is a 5/16 tube adapter, so it converts over to a -6. Unfortunately, it is a female end, right, and not a male end, but it doesn't matter because I do have a 6/6, which is this one right here. So what I'm going to end up doing is, instead of running the stock filter system, we're going to convert this Hardline to -6 just for now, because we're going to be running external feed line later. We're going to be running 6 from here all the way to the 6 on the rail, no fuel filter. And like I said, we're not going to be driving around with no fuel filter and stuff like that. Not saying that you can't. Much prefer to have a fuel filter, but I don't have an inline 6 filter because mine's are 8. But we're just going to run from the firewall to the fuel rail just for starter purposes. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the Hardline to run this tube adapter, and then we'll build our line after that. So got to get our tube cutter, which I think is in here. Okay, probably not. Probably over here. There it is. It is so cold. So this right here, I'm just gonna, I don't know, we don't need to be specific in the length here. I just need to cut this off. So I'm gonna go ahead and just loop-de-doo this, go a couple rounds, tight it up. Young Dana will put a grinder to this and just lob it off. Except we're not young anymore, so. Plus, I don't have a stock fuel filter anyways. Threw it away. I kept the bracket, but I threw away the stock filter because it sat for 9 years. Was it gonna risk it? I mean, technically I can go buy it because we're not ready to turn it on tonight anyways. Voila! This is the piece we cut off. This is the fitting that comes off with that. Tube adapter, pretty straightforward. Not sure why I have an extra 5/16 lying around, but coming in super clutch. So you got to put the sleeve in first. You don't want to cut it too far because you got to put the sleeve in, and then you want to put this brass compression fitting onto the hard line, and also you got to make sure your hard line is nice and clear so it can slide on easy. And you kind of want the lip of the hard line to stick out just a little bit. I'm talking about just a little bit. Or you can just use this as a reference. You just push the hard line until it bottoms out, and then you crank down the sleeve to this to compress that ring, right? So you push it all the way in. Okay, that's about 1/4 of an inch. So all the way in, push sleeve all the way up to the fitting, screw it down, tight it up with Allen wrenches. Alrighty, if it leaks, you can always tighten up a little bit more. This is already pretty dang tight with my giant hands. And now we're gonna put the 6-6 on to convert it over to accept another female 90. You guys can already see where this is going, right? It's starting to stick out really far. But lucky this is temporary. For B series, this is okay. Normally though, if I do use a stock hardline, I do flare it on the inside so we can bring this further back in and closer to the firewall. But if you want to eliminate having it sticking out too far, the tube adapter, get it in a male -6, so that way you can eliminate this coupler right here. So what I need from the feed for the fuel is a 90 here, goes all the way around to probably a 45, which is what I normally run here to kick the hose between the valve cover and the stud to the fuel rail. So 45, 90, but I went through my bin and I don't actually have a 45 hose end for a regular hose, which is this guy here. On top of that, I don't even have a long enough regular AN hose to go from the rail to the firewall, so that's kind of out of the question. I do have PTFE cutoff, this guy here, short one, and this is long enough to go from the fitting on the firewall to the fuel rail. Problem is, without opening my brand new box of PTFE lines and fittings, I only have straights and a 90, which I think will be okay because like I said, it's temporary. So instead of 45 coming in like this, it's gonna come out straight like that. And then obviously the other side will be a 90. So I'm gonna have to pull off PTFE. I'm gonna have to pull off this 90 here and use PTFE straight. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these two fittings, put it onto this guy, and that'll be our feed line with no fuel filter. Again guys, if you're doing it this way, run a fuel filter. Trust me guys, if I had a small inline filter, I would have adapted the inline filter, but we don't have one, so this will do for now. We're not going to be turning this thing on, you know, 1,000 hours at a time. It's just to check everything over. Once everything is good, we move on to the next thing. I do need to order the fuel cell so we can get the ball rolling on doing the modification for the in-tank fuel pump, kind of how we did it on this car. Loving the way this car setup is, so I'm hoping to do the same and have successful result on the EF Sedan. But feed line in, done. Feed line out, also done. Regulator mounted, and return line hose clamp to the stock hardline there. I probably am going to change this hardware because the taper is on the wrong side. Probably going to go to Home Depot to see if I can probably get some Allen headed ones, because I mean the silver on silver looks good, but it's not good looking to the eye. So anyways, that's it for my fuel system for right now. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and just clean all my stuff up. So we have all of my stuff put away, and I found this fitting right here while I was putting everything away. It's a -6. I did mention that our feed line is going to be -8, which is like this guy here, but just for a quick little idea, a little reference to show you guys what our actual feed line is going to route like. This is going to go on the passenger side of the fuel rail like so. The line is going to go underneath the fuel rail. It's very common for a lot of people to do that, so I don't think it looks bad either. So that's how I'm going to do it, 180 right there. I did mention earlier that the feed line is going to run in line with the return from the rail to the regulator, and it's also going to be running in line with the return down low. The return is not going to be through here. It's going to go underneath with the feed line, 2 lines going down that way. So from the fuel cell along the frame rail all the way up to the subframe, and then it's going to run return to the regulator. The feed is going to junction over to this guy. I'm going to get that clamp to clamp these 2 guys together, and then, you know, like I said, into the fuel rail with the 180. So that's going to be our ideal fuel setup. Normally I run it on this side here, 45, run it down low, tuck it in, go into the hard line with the inline filter somewhere there, and that's how I have it on the KRX. That's how I have it on the wagon. But this time around I just want to make it simpler, and instead of having fuel lines on both sides, we'll just have it go in one side only. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today's fuel system, our temporary fuel system. So I'm about ready to wrap it up. Checking out my phone right here behind you guys. I want to give a big shout out to Chris Topher for confirming today that he sent out the CJS wiring conversion harness, which is the last big item that we need to fire this car over, hopefully in the next couple of days. It's supposed to arrive in 4 days. It's literally coming from the East Coast, and the ground kit as well too. Slowly making progress towards getting this car to turn on for the first time, and I'm super stoked about it. I kind of spoke with the homie Slimeball, talking about like focusing on one major thing at a time. You know what I mean? Like when you're building an all-out car inside and out, under and over, it's very important to focus on like the main things first. You know what I mean? Like my car is going to be K all-wheel drive turbo, but my order of operation is to get it running front wheel drive, and then obviously the turbo kit, and then possibly tune the car before the all-wheel drive conversion, then do the all-wheel drive conversion and all that good stuff. So instead of bouncing around front to back, back to front, inside and out, and you're just kind of all over the place with parts everywhere, it's better to just focus one area at a time, and that's kind of how we've been doing it. That's why these videos are like topic specific. So today we're just doing the quick cool. So today we just did a quick little temporary fuel system for the car, and or if it applies to you guys to have it permanently that way, this is the fuel system that I normally run on a K-Series. Now I did say a lot of do's and don'ts and do's, and you guys probably see me do a lot of the don'ts, but the thing is, it's important that I do mention the correct way to do certain things. So do it however you guys feel comfortable with, whatever you guys have, and if you guys have all the correct shit, do shit the correct way. That's kind of how it just goes, you know what I mean? So anyways, guys, enough with the jibber jabber. We're going to cap out this video right here. I hope you guys enjoyed the progress update on the EF Sedan, the fuel system install. If you guys did, man, be sure to leave a thumbs up. And if you guys want to stick around for some more progress update on the EF Sedan, I think we might get into the suspension stuff here real soon. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.